What's happening, all you minties? Uncanny Omar here from Near Mint Condition, the home of collected editions. And it is Tuesday. That means it's time to take an advance look at all of these trades coming out from Marvel Comics this week. So, let's go ahead and get started. And welcome back, everybody. Before going any further, I do want to thank David Gabriel and the fine folks at Marvel for sending us advance copies of these trades. All these books are due out in the direct market and book market on June 6th or 7th, depending on where you get your books. So we have an Epic collection, a brand new one. We have what would have been at one time called a complete collection, now just called Spider-Woman by Dennis Hopeless. This is a big book. We have a Saga book, which is almost as thick as some epics. Well, maybe it is as thick as some. And then we have some new trade paperbacks of ongoing series. And X-Force, this one is volume 6. Wow, they're getting up there. As always, I put timestamps in the description of the video so you can jump around in case you're only interested in one or two titles. But always smash that like button, please. That goes a long way for us here on the channel. It's a very small thing you can do for us. All right, let's go ahead and get started with... Which one? Let's do X-Force today. X-Force by Benjamin Percy, Volume 6. Or X-Men in Space. Not that that makes much sense now because they've been in space for a while. As a matter of fact, some of them that are living on Araco is now a planet, and that's where they've been. So here we have the latest issues collected of X-Force. This collects issues 34 through 38 of Benjamin Percy's series. So this is the stuff that happens after the new Hellfire Gala and after the Judgment Day crossover event with the Avengers and the Eternals. So they are up in space now. This is the remaining members of X-Force. And they're still trying to keep true to what their mission is. The same mission that they abide by here on Earth. They take it up to space when they have to confront some space pirates. That's right. That's what's kind of fun we're having with this particular title now. I still love the idea of Sage being a big part of the team. Omega Red has now been playing a big part of the team too, which I don't know if that was the intent originally when he showed up through the pages of Wolverine, but Benjamin Percy just put him on this particular team. We also see the return of Colossus through these pages, but it's more of a confrontation than a return. Somebody from Colossus's past just doesn't agree with some of the things that he's done. And we also have some more secret councils. Beast kind of gets his due. We have the introduction of something called the Omni-Mutant. And what exactly is that? And then we finally get a little bit about the Xeno and what's been pushing them. What is the drive? Who is the man with the peacock tattoo? And what exactly is behind the mask? Is there an identity to him? Does he have any kind of relations to these characters? And then, of course, Deadpool jumping in on the fun. As I mentioned through my overviews in the past about this particular series, when people ask me what do I think of X-Force, or Wolverine for that matter, ups and downs, there's some things that I'm like, oh, that was awesome. I love the beginning of both X-Force and Wolverine by Percy. I thought he really understood the characters. And then sometimes the characters just seem way out of characters. It's nice to see Maverick and Omega Red through the series. And this issue actually, or this particular collection actually got me wondering. I think it's well past due time that we get a Maverick complete collection, or I guess a Maverick saga from his series. The series went on for a little bit. I mean, I know it was canceled. This is the one in the 90s by, was Terry Cabana, I think. But the art was done by Jim Chung, and it is just so good. And it features the character of Maverick and his protege, what is his name? Bolt, I think that was his name. But anyway, I would love to see that collected. So, back to this. This also has Maverick and all the mercs up in space. And again, a big confrontation with Xeno. Let's look in the back here for some extras. So, all the textless covers are done in splash pages in the back. Who is the man with the peacock tattoo? You might get your answers. What the hell is that? composite dominant. No, it's way too many pieces to be composite. And also the variant covers are collected back here. Some in splash, some in thumbnail size pages. 136 pages, $15.99. Star Wars Han Solo and Chewbacca, Volume 2, The Crystal Run, Part 2. Now, as I mentioned with my first overview of the Volume 1 book, this here takes place before Episode 4, so before A New Hope. So the adventures that you're going to be reading about through these pages all take place before. They meet up with characters like Luke Skywalker and Princess Leia. So this kind of gives you a little recap as to what's happened before. Pretty much in the previous volume, Han Solo's gone missing. He's been shot by Greedo. Everyone believes he's dead, but if you've watched any of the movies or even read the comics, you know that he's not. He's just out there looking hotter because he grows a beard. Yeah. So that's what you get from Han Solo in this. Hot Han Solo. I can't help but think now when people get beards because of Hot Ryu and Street Fighter. By the way, anybody playing Street Fighter 6, that's what people called him and dubbed him. This is also the return of a character, even though it's taking place in the past before Episode 4. We do get Maz Kanata from the, I guess, sequel trilogy, Episodes 7, 8, and 9. She shows up through here because Chewbacca has been imprisoned. He's imprisoned in the prison planet of Golhadar. Now, there he meets friends, but he also makes enemies, and then Maz Kanata is there. So we also see the return of this character right here. This is Corbus, who plays a big important part in Han Solo's life. And then there he is right there with a wound mark and a beard. So this kind of tells you exactly what happened in the previous, well, in between the issues of the previous volume of Greedo shooting him and him just waking up. Where is he? How can he get back to Chewbacca? Will they ever be reunited? Again, it's actually a fun title. I really enjoyed this. This is written by Mark Guggenheim, who's no stranger to, of course, writing Star Wars, but I like the idea of Chewie and Han having their own adventure. I like that they're not constricted to being in the same era that all the other Star Wars are set in, the books right now from Marvel Comics, because everything is set after Empire. I guess it would be really difficult to have a Han Solo Chewbacca adventure after Empire Strikes Back, because it would just be Chewbacca hauling Han Solo around in carbonite. But then again, they did do the War of the Bounty Hunters. But anyway, so this book collects issues 6 through 10. Sorry, slip of the tongue there. Uncanny Omar, talk pretty and think pretty one day. And this one has 120 pages. And this is the new series that's been coming out in 2022. Well, the one that started in 2022. $15.99. Let's look at the back here for some extras. So here are your variant covers. Like that one there's by David Nakayama. The standard edition covers are collected right before the beginning of the issues. And then some more ads for other Star Wars books. And believe me, there are a lot of those. Spider-Man. Just Spider-Man. Volume 1. End of the Spider-Verse. So, this is kind of a big deal because you have Dan Slott coming back to writing Spider-Man, and they just made an announcement that he's coming back and writing the ongoing series of Superior Spider-Man. It's really weird. Like, these announcements have happened before San Diego Comic-Con. Like, we know that J. Michael Straczynski's coming back to write Captain America. Well, not coming back, but coming back to Marvel to write the Captain America ongoing series. And we have Dan Slott coming back and writing a Superior Spider-Man series. The big deal in here is that Dan Slott and this guy right here, Mark Bagley, who has worked on Spider-Man probably more than any other artist alive, even John Romita Jr., he's drawn more pages of Spider-Man than John Romita Jr. has, are now working on this series right here. I believe this is an ongoing series, if I'm not mistaken. Please correct me if I'm wrong. This collects the first 7 issues of this series. And yes, it is called End of the Spider-Verse. So I'm going to give you the premise of what exactly is going on, and you can check it out for yourself if it interests you. So this is set during present time. So this is during Zeb Wells' run of Spider-Man, where Spider-Man, Peter Parker, is now working under Norman Osborn. You can find out for yourself how all that happens. He's got new tech on his costume. And can I just say, remarkably drawn by Mark Bagley. I swear, it's like riding a bike for him, drawing Spider-Man. He can probably do it with his eyes closed. So he's out there fighting crime, and then out of nowhere, a portal appears. And there's a couple of strange figures that are watching him from Earth 001. So this right here is all looking like old school colors, very, very pixelated, if you will. But this is a secret corner of the Spider-Verse. So this is going to be like the third go-around with the Spider-Verse, and it probably has a lot to do with the movie. But I'm just glad to see Dan Slott working with Mark Bagley, because they haven't worked together before, not on a big project. But as I was saying, a portal opens up in this city, and out of that portal walks out one of his biggest, if not his biggest nemesis, according to some people, and that is Morlun. He has come back. And has he come back to eat the Spider people again? This is the reason why we had Spider-Verse and the reason we had Spider-Geddon. Is this the third go-around, or is this really the end of the Spider-Verse? Well, they just kind of knock the crap out of each other, and Morlun just wipes the floor with Peter, as he normally does when he first shows up, until Peter finds that inner strength. But he's not alone, and technology's not what's helping him this time around. Now we have Silk and Jessica Drew Spider-Woman and Miles Morales Spider-Man helping him out, defeat Morlun. Spider-Man Noir shows up, and you're like, oh my gosh, it is the return of the Spider-Verse. These guys are all going to team up and beat the crap out of Morlun. Now why is he back? But as it turns out, Spider-Man Noir is not there to help. He's there to stab Jessica Drew. Out of nowhere, he pulls out a dagger and stabs her and says that she has been severed. Not killed, severed. So everybody's wondering, what does that mean? And Jessica just starts unraveling, like her whole body just starts falling apart like a spider web, and Pete's even holding her. I mean, that is a really graphic death right there. I mean, no blood and guts, but if you're a spider folk, that's not the way you want to go. So why is Spider-Man Noir, who's teamed up with Peter in the past, why is he against them? Well, Morlun finally gets the webbing out of his mouth, and he's like, this is why I wanted to talk to you. I didn't want to fight you, Peter. I'm here to tell you that I'm helping you. So in a twist, yes, Morlun is helping him because there's a darker evil that is coming. Someone from another world, from another Spider-Verse, is now transforming all the spider folk and into these creatures with mandibles, and they're out to kill these remaining Spider-Man men or ladies, or turning them as they will. Now it's up to Morlun and the remaining Spider crew to go around and recruit everybody that's left to fight their friends that are being possessed. So Araña makes a return. Yes, Araña, she's no longer going as Spider-Girl. Hey, it's her name. She can call herself whatever she wants to. Sometimes, though, it is hard to keep tabs on who's who in the spider world when you have so many characters. Like, I completely forgot for some reason about Madame Web, or who she is now. But this is what the big 7 issues is. We have the return. This is one of my favorite parts right here, in a big twist in issue number 4. A return of a particular Spider-Man. And I know when people say that, you're expecting, oh, it's going to be so-and-so, or another character. Yes, but I like what they did with this particular issue. Kraven is his own Spider-Man. This is also where you're going to get the Spider-Boy character. I'm sure most people saw that character showed up. I think it was a news outlet. I saw it somewhere. I've seen pictures of him before. He shows up towards the end of the book here. But yeah, not what I was expecting, but also more of the same, if that makes sense. But this book right here has 176 pages. This one retails for $24.99. Let's look at the extras. So some of the extras are on the opposite page of the standard edition cover, some of the variant covers, and then some are all the way in the back. Like you have a variant by Frank Miller there, Ryan Stegman, Scotty Young, Humberto Ramos. And these are done in thumbnail size. An Alex Ross sketch variant to this guy right here, Spider-Boy. The top secret spoiler variant, but they released it out in the news outlets. And who he is, I don't know why that's top secret. It's just another Spider character, because Spider characters show up through all of Spider-Verse. Alright, but that was Spider-Man Volume 1. Let me know if there's going to be a Volume 2 collecting more of this story, and if there's going to be more Spider-Verse. And it has come to be that time and part of the video where I remind people to smash that like button, but also check out all the spines of the books coming out. This is what they're going to look like when your bookshelf is filled up with these books. Unless you have a big enough room and you can just show covers all around your bookshelf, but I don't know who has that much room. Alright, let's continue with this overview. The Hood, the Saga of Parker Robbins. Now, the standard size hardcover and the old trade paperback have been long out of print. And this collects more than that. This collects The Hood 1 through 6 and Dark Reign, The Hood 1 through 5, and then a little bit of the Dark Reign, The Cabal. Now, before you even ask, is it uncensored? 100%. As a matter of fact, on the back, it says explicit content. And that is not the reason, but just because some people watch all my videos, and thank you all so much for that. Whenever I do my top 10 upcoming collected edition videos, I mentioned this one for the month of June, said this would be number 11. So this gets this week's seal of approval, and it was hard because this came out at the same month that Spider-Woman did, or same week Spider-Woman did. That was a very close second. But this one this was my return to comics, and I hadn't read anything by Marvel Comics quite like this at that time. So it is max material. All the F-bombs are here from the 6-issue miniseries that Brian K. Vaughan wrote. So it is edgy. And even reading it now, some people may roll their eyes going, why do people like this? I don't get it. This guy is a prick. And yes, he's not a likable character. So in the miniseries where he's introduced, we meet the character of Parker Robbins. He's visiting his mom, and he's telling her, Mom, I just got accepted to the pre-med program. I'm gonna be a doctor. So you can see something just is really messed up with his mom. She starts calling him the wrong name. The nurse comes in, and he's like, hey, man, you need to go. I gave you an extra 5 minutes because you were late. And by the way, can I ask you something? And let me know if I'm being too personal. But last time you came over here, you said you were going to be a lawyer. And the week before that, you told her you were going to be a stockbroker. And Parker just pulls out a blade, a switchblade, and threatens him, telling him that if he ever says another word about that stuff, he was going to cut his effing face off. And effing, I don't mean freaking. So that's how you're introduced to the Hood. He meets his cousin John, who's just come back into town. And John tells him about a stakeout where they can go and steal a bunch of things because it's not guarded really well. And they get approached by somebody from Hydra. I love the whole talk about supervillains. This is a supervillain bar, for example. This is Max right there, the Electro. And John's like, why the hell do they wear superhero costumes? And Parker's answer, maybe edgy, but at the time it made sense. So they beat up the Hydra guy, and they end up finding the address to this location where all this stuff was going to be. Not only do they beat him up, but his cousin pees on him. And here John says, hey, man, don't forget to tell your girl I said hello. So you see Parker go to this girl's house, and it turns out that it's not his girlfriend, that he's cheating on his pregnant girlfriend, who's actually going to school, putting herself through school. So again, he's not the nicest guy. He's kind of a dirtbag. And that's the kind of character you're going to be reading about. So here at this warehouse where they were supposed to get whatever this MacGuffin was going to be, a gold or a suitcase, it turns out that there's a demon there that's been summoned. And Parker kills the demon. And he's like, look, I'm not going to get out of here with anything. And his cousin John's like, hey, man, we got to go. I'm going to steal his boots and his cape. I'm out of here. So he takes the boots and the cape. Oh, yeah. On top of being a cheater, a liar, and a punk, he's also slightly racist. So, again, not the most likable character. You're probably wondering why the hell I like this book. So, Parker, as it turns out, I'll get to that here in a second, steals these boots and this hood, and the boots give him the ability to fly, and the hood gives him the ability to turn invisible. Now, of course, there's always a price to pay when it comes to getting these things. We don't know who the proper owner of these things are. Mistakes are made, accidents happen, he accidentally shoots a cop, the cop has this wife that is so sweet. She's reading him White Fang as he's lying there in a comatose state at the hospital. And I say that because that plays an important part towards the ending of this run and what the Dark Reign series is going to be about. But here he takes up against some villains. This costume has just all kinds of powers. Towards the end of the miniseries, you might find out who the costume might have belonged to or who the rightful creator of the costume is. That they actually play that out in the Dark Reign series. So why I liked it was because at this time when I was coming back to Marvel, I hadn't read a character like this at Marvel Comics before. You've read things in the past that had been a little bit uh, adult, right? Like had a little bit of language, but not F-bombs left and right. Not about a douchebag that's like cheating on his girlfriend and lying to his mom and threatening people. And like I said, slightly racist. I hadn't read about a character like that for a Marvel line. It was a Max series. So I think that's why I liked it. And honestly, there's just something about Brian K. Vaughan's dialogue that just absorbs me in. I love it. Whether it's this or even things I'm not slightly interested about, like Ex Machina. I don't really care about a president being a superhero, but I love the dialogue and I ended up really liking the characters. And while the character is flawed, there are some things about Parker that at that age of 20, early 20s when I was coming back to comics, I kind of related to him with. So that's why I liked it, and that's why I said this one got the seal of approval. The 6-issue miniseries alone is worth it because it's been out of print and way too much money. You have characters in here like the Shocker and Jack-o'-lantern, love what he calls him, and the Constrictor, but also a couple of other cameos. The Dark Reign, the Cabal introduces the Hood in a new way, because during Bendis' run on Avengers, the Hood has now kind of become the big like kingpin, the new kingpin of New York City, and he's gathering all these super villains. Now, if you remember what I said about the lady whose husband was a cop and he got shot, got put into a coma, and she would read the White Fang to him, well, she comes back in this miniseries. She was set up in the original miniseries, and she is now calling herself White Fang, and she wants revenge on the Hood for everything that he did, what cost her husband's demise. Eventually, she teams up with some supervillains, and of course, when you have supervillains together, they're all not all going to respect this new crime boss, this new crime leader. By now, his life has changed a little bit. He's still with Sarah. They have a child, and he's still running this underground world. Now, does Sarah know about this? Does the child know about this? And what's going on with his mom? That all gets explored a little bit more through here. It's a fun series. It's limited because it's weird going from the dialogue here with F-bombs being dropped in about every freaking word bubble to here where, crap and things like that, where they have to abide by the language because it's got to rate a comic book. But this one here is rated explicit content, mainly for the language. It is... this one is $34.99, and it has 296 pages. Next up is Spider-Woman by Dennis Hopeless. So this book right here has been previously released in a series of trade paperbacks. This one is thick. It is $49.99, and it has 552 pages. It is a thick book. Like, it's thicker than this Epic collection right here, or right around as thick. It's not a complete collection. This is just how Marvel is collecting these big books. These long out of print trade paperbacks are going to be coming back like collections like this, if it's by a certain creator. So this is the new era of Spider-Woman, pretty much after Spider-Verse. We had Silk, a new ongoing series. As a matter of fact, she plays a role in here. And we had Spider-Woman. The original Jessica Drew came back as Spider-Woman, and this was her ongoing series. So we're still in the aftermath of Spider-Verse, so Spider-Gwen will play a part in this. Oh, I do need to mention this. This collects Spider-Woman, the 2014 series, 1 through 10, and then Spider-Woman when it was relaunched after Secret Wars, 1 through 5, and 8 through 17. As well as material from Amazing Spider-Man, the 2015 issue number 1. Now, if you're wondering what the missing issues are, That's the crossover with Silk and Spider-Gwen. It's collected in the modern Epic collection of Spider-Gwen, and it's collected in the Spider-Gwen Omnibus. But it's not collected in this nor the Silk collections. So we do have Spider-Woman. Jessica is back in her classic costume up until about issue number 4. We see some things that aren't all what they seem to be. Greg Land does the artwork for the very beginning. And then you have Javier Rodriguez step in as artist. And oh my gosh, is it a game changer. Not just with the tone of the story, but the look of the story. She gets a new costume in, I thought it was this is issue 5, right? Yeah, issue number 5, she gets this new costume. And her supporting cast starts growing. So she's been working with Ben Urich, of course, from the pages of Daredevil. She's been working with Silk. Captain Marvel, Carol Danvers shows up. And then someone completely unexpected, and not even the original, shows up through here, and that is Porcupine. So Porcupine, this is a different Porcupine than Alexander Gentry, the character from Tales to Astonish, the character from Iron Man. This is Roger Gawking, who showed up through the pages of, I think it was Jimmy Palmiotti's run on Daughters of the Dragon. So this is Roger. It is that character. He's a little different than the original Porcupine. So here he's robbing a bank and she stops him and he's like, look, I'm not doing this because I want the money. It's because if I don't do this, they're going to kill my little girl. And she's like, wait, what did you just say? So she gets Ben's help and she's trying to understand exactly what Roger was trying to do, who has his daughter kidnapped. And it's just a different take on this character. I mean, this is a character that's been a private eye. She's been a superhero. She's been with the Avengers, led some teams. She was Wolverine's sidekick for a while in Madripoor. So it's a different take, but it also feels like going back home. There's a simplicity to not just the art. I love Javier's artwork, by the way. I think his art is phenomenal. And it gets better and better through this series. So through here, there is going to be a change, though. There's going to be a change after Secret Wars. Remember what I said, that this kickstarts after Secret Wars. It relaunches with a brand new number 1. Well, there's a change to the character that I thought was such an interesting take. Let me see if I can find it. So after the series ends with issue number 10, this is how some of the covers are collected. Sometimes variant covers, but this is just part of that Marvel .1 comic, and it showcases where characters are. This is 8 months after Secret Wars, and Jessica Drew is pregnant. So we knew going into the Marvel Now era of Spider-Woman that she was going to be pregnant, and it's this image right here. And in comics, you know, we've seen characters that have become pregnant, like Power Girl, which, oh my gosh, wait, that might be a horrible, actually. Never mind, forget I said that one. Not as bad as Captain Marvel Carol Danvers, or Miss Marvel Carol Danvers, but that one was also pretty awful. But we have seen characters that have become pregnant and have limited themselves to what they can do on the team. But we've never had the lead character of a comic that was pregnant, at least not in Western superhero comics that I can remember. So at first I was like, how in the world is this comic going to be going from, well, I'm sure you saw all the cartwheels that she was doing, all the jumping around, because she has the spider agility. How are we going to go from that to this? How is she going to be able to be just the same superhero? Because she's 8 months pregnant. Well, she still manages. But the way that Hopeless writes her, she's restricted to what she can do. She can't crawl around in tight spaces. There are moments where she gets sick or she's craving things. And my wife has been pregnant twice, and I'm not even going to pretend I know what that's like. But I have been around her, and I have been around friends that have been pregnant. And my wonderful co-host, the amazing Amanda, read this, and there is a lot of truth to the way that Jessica Drew is being written here when she's dealing with the pregnancy, like when the baby starts kicking and all these things that are happening to her. But of course, they throw in the superhero stuff, and Alpha Flight gets involved in where she delivers the baby. And I thought that when she delivers the baby is just such a beautiful moment. And yeah, she's still able to do kick-ass action like this. And man, that artwork, again, wow, it is so good. Especially when Veronica Fish does the finishes, and whenever she actually becomes the ongoing artist towards the tail end of the run. It's just amazing. Oh my gosh, speaking of amazing, this is after she delivers the baby, and it's such a badass moment. I remember thinking, whoa, that's the Jessica that I remembered. Because I hated what happened to her. I love Uncle Raj, and I understand that he had to deal with the cancellation of Spider-Woman. I wasn't a fan of the way that the original Spider-Woman ended. I didn't like what happened there. I didn't like so, some of the stuff that Bendis did was okay, but this is the Jessica that I really like. This is the kind of stuff that I always wanted to see her just go at it with her powers. And this is right after she has the baby and she's like, all right, Doc, stitch me up. She gets her guns out and starts going after these scrolls. Oh, it's so badass. And there's a lot of heart to this series too. That's what I like about it. It's not just about her becoming pregnant and being this one-time gag and the baby not being a part of it, and now the baby's in the background. No, it becomes like a family book. Her and Rogers helping her take care of the baby, and Ben Urich is there, and from time to time you'll get other guest stars that show up that kind of help her along the way. There's a tie-in in here, and this is one of those forced tie-ins that I thought was handled really well with Civil War II. Something she finds out something happened to one of her friends, something horrible, and she wants revenge. She wants to know why, and she just kind of cuts loose. There's the Hobgoblin story in here that goes a little dark, but man, I swear, if the Saga of the Hood was not in here, this definitely would have gotten the uh, seal of approval this month or this week. It's just such a great read, and these trades have been long out of print, so it is completely worth it just to own them again, especially if you've ever been interested in the character of Jessica Drew. Let's look at the extras, and here's the extras. Yeah, I think maybe, I tend to gravitate towards people that write like Chris Claremont, and I think that's my problem. It could be one of my weaknesses. I don't know. So Hopeless, the way that he writes Jessica, kind of reminded me of the way that Claremont wrote her, whether he was on Spider-Woman or when she guest starred in the Wolverine era of Madripoor, or the Madripoor era of Wolverine. One of those. Layouts and sketches. This is a big book. Hopefully one day, I'd love to see this in oversized format. But that is Spider-Woman by Dennis Hopeless. Last but certainly not least, Generation X Epic Collection, Volume 3, The Secret of M. Now, to my buddy Curtis, this probably would have been the pick of the week. He loves Generation X. I didn't really grow up with it because I stopped reading comics right around when issue 15, 16 were coming out of Gen X. And I never got to read this stuff until I went back and started getting comics again right around the time when I got big into comics again. That was Astonishing X-Men. So I had to go and buy some back issues and recollect everything. And this was some of the stuff that I was missing. So I wanted to see what was happening to the characters of Gen X. This is a really interesting era for comics in general. So we kick it off with issue number 24, and it goes all the way to 32. The -1 issue is in here, the annual 97 issue is in here, X-Men Unlimited 16 is in here, Marvel Team Up number 1, and the Daydreamers miniseries, the 3-issue miniseries, are all in here. And there's also the Generation X Underground. So it's this Christmas story that we kick it off with, and the ladies are all telling just a past story about themselves. M goes through something from her past, Paige goes through something from her past, Jubilee, and then Emma even shares something. Rick Leonardi doing that artwork. And when I said that this was an interesting era for comics, I meant that in the art style. So let's look at Generation X Annual 97, for example. This is drawn by Dan Fraga. Fraga comes from the world of Extreme Studios. So Rob Liefeld. I don't know if he was a friend or if he just found him through some kind of artist challenge that they were doing. But it feels like... Now, Fraga went on to develop his own style, but during this time, it felt like you either wanted to be Jim Lee or you wanted to be Joe Mad. Or you could mix them together and then start developing your own style. So you started to see a lot of what some of us call Jim Lee clones and Joe Mad clones, and there were a lot of them. Whenever I do the Wolverine Epic Collection, I'm going to show you an instance of where the same Jim Lee Sabretooth picture was drawn by two different artists in two different books. And I'm okay. Mel Ruby's another one, for example. This is, yeah, Melvin Ruby from the X-Men Unlimited. So there was a reason why a lot of people just stopped reading comics in the 90s. A lot of the older readers were like, there's nothing new here. Everybody's mimicking the same art style. And it's funny because now I'm hearing that from readers. People that have been reading comics for 10, 20 years are now saying that about, oh man, comics all look the same. Like all these uh, Pepe Larraz and RB Silva and Stuart Eminem type of artists, they all look the same. They don't there's nothing different about their art. You could say the same thing about the 90s. There's a lot of that. And honestly, you could say that about the 80s sometimes. Some of the art. I, one of my favorite artists of all time is Travis Charest. And he started as what we call the Jim Lee clone. These artists, I always see eventually evolve and become their own styles. And I love that. I mean, Don Rosa, I've always told this story, traced Carl Bark ducks for his published work. He was tracing ducks because he wasn't sure of himself that he could draw comics. And, well, the rest is history. We do have the return of Chris Bachalo, who did have a unique style then. Mark Buckingham, I don't think he was inking his stuff at this time. But this is also during this long time of the Operation Zero Tolerance crossover, where Jubilee is kidnapped most of the time. In issue 25, there's a death of a character, but is it really that character? Brian Hitch drawing this particular backup story. There's the -1 issue here, featuring a story with Dark Beast and a couple of other characters that have ties to these kids. Yeah, I love this era of Bachalo style. He almost goes full-blown anime, especially with the big eyes. Like, I had no idea it was him. There was something about Buckingham's inks that kind of brought him down. He was a little more grounded, but with this, it was like, wow, he's going full-blown anime. So yes, this ties heavily into the Operation Zero Tolerance. Do you need to know anything about Operation Zero Tolerance or read any of the other issues? Not really. They were kind of doing their own thing. It almost felt like Fall of the Mutants. The Sentinels were everywhere, and that's all you had to know, and the kids were dealing with it their own way. Now, both Chris Bachalo and Scott Lobdell end up leaving the book. This is Mark Buckingham, which reminds me a lot of old Chris Bachalo art. This is the fill-in issue. And James Robinson steps in as the writer for a while. Right before Larry Hama. So here is the Daydreamers miniseries. I actually really enjoyed this. I hadn't read it until I came back. Oh, and before I talk about Daydreamers, sometimes the pinups and house ads or trade paperback covers are on the opposite page of the standard edition covers. But Daydreamers, I had a lot of fun reading this series because it was about these kids, a group of kids teamed up with Howard the Duck and Man-Thing and Tana and the Nile. So this is Artie and Leech and Franklin Richards, and they were known as the Daydreamers. So after the events of Onslaught, Franklin moves into the X-Mansion to be taken care of by Emma and Sean Cassidy. But he goes on many adventures with Artie and Leech, who are also the two kids living there, and then Howard the Duck and Man-Thing get involved. So I'd love to see these Steve Gerber characters show up. And then Tana the Nile just shows up as kind of like to round them off. So they go into otherworld type of adventures, hopping through different dimensions and different Earths. But the artwork is what I wanted to talk about. Again, it was kind of like Joe Mad type of art or Humberto Ramos, almost like an anime feel to this art. Martin Eagleland is the artist on the book. So very cartoony style. Now, on the opposite end is this very independent style here. And this is the Jim Mahfood Generation X Underground Special, Volume 1. So it is all done in black and white. It's done in this very indie style, which indie comics were just kind of getting really popular during this time, because now we're looking at the probably 1997 era. Am I right? 97, 98 era, where the internet, people are starting to share more and more through forums. They're becoming bigger and bigger through AOL chat rooms, and people are talking about indie stuff, right? It's not as niche as it was like during the era of Cerebus when it started, or Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, when people were trying to self-publish books. So Jim Mahfood was one of these indie artists, and they got him to draw this particular underground issue. So it almost felt like a zine. And not really any extras in the back outside of this trade paperback. Or, I'm sorry, this is the afterword from Marvel's Fall 1996 titles. But like I mentioned, the variants sometimes are on the opposite page of the standard edition covers. So this book right here retails for $44.99, and it has 480 pages. And that, as they say, is that. If you're interested in purchasing any of these trades, don't forget to check out our sponsor, CheapGraphicNovels.com, your online home for graphic novels and collected editions up to 50% off cover price. They have excellent shipping and prompt and helpful service. Check out their bargain deals for up to 90% off cover price. And don't forget that CGN also takes pre-orders. That way you don't miss out on the hottest releases. And they are currently running a special promotion for you Minties. If you're a first-time customer, after receiving your order confirmation email, reply back to that email and let them know Near Mint Condition sent you their way. They will then apply a free shipping promotional credit to your next order in the US. Cheap Graphic Novels, your source for the hottest books with the kind of deep discount, quality shipping, and customer service that will keep you coming back for more. And those were the books for this particular week. Let me know in the comments down below if you're picking up the Epic Collection, if you're picking up this big thick trade because the other ones are out of print, if you're hoping for an oversized hardcover format one day, what you think of the hood, that really deserve the seal of approval. Well, I mean, it's my choice, so I guess yes, it does. But I would love to know if you read it and you were like, nah, too edgy for me, no thank you, or you're not a fan of Brian K. Vaughan, or what you would have picked out of this bunch. Alright, if you have any questions, leave them down below. Don't forget to smash that like button on the way out. Check out our Patreon and Spreadshop, amazing ways to support the channel. The links are in the description of the video. Everyone stay healthy and safe out there. Much love.